high expectations. Everyone's always talking about them, but what does that really mean?
Hello and welcome back to another At the Chalk Face video by Craig and Dave. Hello, I'm Craig and
And I'm Dave.
that's Dave over there. So today we're going to chat about high expectations. What does it mean? What does it look like? And we're going to have a bit of a focus today on high expectations in the form of sort of like homework, because it can mean so many things. But the first thing straight off the bat I want to say is high expectations are often packaged together and confused with meaning hard work. Okay, and I want to blow that out the water straight away from word one. High expectations may manifest itself in hard work in one form, but high expectations does not mean setting hard work for students. So let's get into that a little bit, Dave. What do we think, therefore, is meant by high expectations if it's not simply you're going to get hard work and you're going to do your damnedest to achieve it?
Yeah, I think that's, often the misconception. And high expectations can still be easy for students to achieve
Yeah.
because it's about students actually doing the work that you've set them. Never mind how hard that work is, the expectation that they are going to do it and they're going to expect you to expect them to do it. Well, that's high expectations in itself. So for me, high expectations, yeah, we can look at the work, but it's really about the routines and habits that you've got in your students and making sure that they are doing what you want them to do. That's what high expectations really is for me.
So you're talking more about consistency then, really? Embedding that
Absolutely.
consistency, seeing that consistency. Yeah, okay. So we said we were going to, now we've given our stance on what we think high expectations isn't. We said we were going to focus this video particularly on homework, because obviously high expectations can come in lots of different forms, behavior in the classroom, how they're interacting, the rest of it. But we're going to focus on what do we think high expectations look like with a focus on homework. And we're going to use our own resources here because we exemplify the high expectations we have in terms of our homework. Now, depending on which of our products you might be aware of, you might be using some of them, we're going to take a look at our teaching resources. So for teaching the subject of computer science and what we set for homework and what that homework looks like and what the high expectations are. And also, if your students or you are a user of Smart Revise, which is our online course companion and revision tool for computer science and business. So what does high expectations look like for using that product out of the classroom in terms of homework? So we're going to focus on those two areas. So start off, Dave, with our teaching resources. If you're a user of our teaching resources, you're using our PowerPoints and our worksheets and our workbooks to teach computer science lessons. What does high expectations look like in terms of homework using our resources?
Yeah, so Craig and I advocate a flipped classroom approach to teaching Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5, so GCSE and A level. So essentially, what that means is students are going to watch a 4 to 12-minute video, and from that video, they're going to make some notes. Now, students don't necessarily know how to make notes, and so we'll talk about that in a bit. But they're essentially asked to put notes into a notebook. And so they're preparing for the lesson ahead of the lesson. And so we might start by thinking, well, why even bother with homework? And I will be honest,
Mm.
Craig, there was a period of time where I thought to myself, does this really add any value? I hate setting it. The students hate doing it. The parents hate helping with it. I hate marking it. It's like everyone hates it. So why do we even bother? And some schools have adopted a kind of no homework policy, which is really interesting. And I think quite often parents have this opinion of, well, if it was good enough for me, it was good enough for them, and therefore they kind of expect homework to be set because we always do what we've always done.
Yeah.
And I think that there probably needs to be even more research into the true effectiveness of homework. Now, that's not to say there hasn't been research. Hattie and others have looked at this and they've concluded that there are features of good homework. And we've also thought ourselves about, well, what does good homework look like? So I'm going to kind of start with that, and then we can think
Okay.
about how it exemplifies itself in our note taking. So firstly, we think that homework should be short and focused. It shouldn't take students a long time to do because they don't want to do it. So, no more than 20 minutes. It needs to be really focused. The research says don't set open-ended tasks, don't set research tasks. Things that are based on sort of rote learning and preparing for the lesson far more effective. It also shouldn't require any parental help. Now, I'm a dad of two, and I've had pain of helping both of my boys through their school years with tasks that, dare I say, on occasion, I ended up doing for them.
Oh,
And
Dave.
I know, right? I always don't want to admit it, but there have been times where I might have sort of produced a poster on Tudor England. So we really don't want to be in that place, do we? Because not all students have help at home. Not all students
Yeah.
have a place where they can study. They don't have the parental support. And so we kind of risk increasing the attainment gap if we rely on
Mm.
parents. So that's really important. We think that homework should be the same for all students. Those of you that know us well know that we believe in scaffolding up, not differentiating down, and therefore there's no reason why all students shouldn't get the same homework, and therefore we need to make it easy and achievable. We think that homework should prepare them for the upcoming lessons so that you've got that baseline. When they come into your room, you already know what knowledge they've got because they've already engaged with that through a video and through some note taking. And then we also think about memory retention, and we can talk about Smart Advise a little bit later and its role in that. And so ultimately, we really want this to be something that students are happy, I say in inverted commas, because I don't know if students will ever be truly happy about doing homework. But if it's easy and it's achievable and they know they're going to get praise from their teacher and they know it's going to help them in school and in their lessons, they're more likely to do it. So, how does that then really become high expectations, Craig? All we're asking the students to
Mm.
do is to watch a video, pause it at an appropriate place that we indicate on the GCSE videos, and then essentially copy what is on the slide into their notebook. It doesn't feel like high expectations for most teachers, I would argue, but
Yeah.
we say differently.
Yeah. And that's because of the method we use to choose to take note taking. And this is where Dave mentioned Hattie earlier. If you take Hattie's original research, homework as an effective tool was way down the list, so homework's pointless. But you then get nuanced into that research and say, oh, but homework with a purpose, or homework that's framed like this, or homework that's done before the lesson to prepare. And all of a sudden, when you get more nuanced, you realize that homework rises. So it's about using the right homework. So we definitely believe in the flipped classroom, and that's not lazy teaching. So using homework as a tool to prepare for the lessons. So we're using note taking. But further to that, we're not just suggesting they just copy notes in a book. So we recommend the Cornell method of note taking. And it's a cognitive process of taking notes that helps them process what they're doing, whether they're taking notes from a book or from a video, because it doesn't have to be from a video. We do videos, but you could say chapter 1, pages 1 to 10. So first of all, you watch your video, or you read your chapters, and you write down the summary of the bullet points. And say at GCSE we provide those, but that's not where you stop. Then you go through those notes and you turn them into a series of questions. And that cognitive process is forcing the student to think about the notes they've taken, already having watched or read the material once, and then reframe it in a different way to pose questions. And if you're aware of the Cornell method, there's a sort of left-hand column here where you write the questions next to it. And then on top of that, you go through what you've written in your questions and you highlight the keywords. The keywords or terminology from that video you've watched or those pages that you've read. So the high expectations here come in, for my class, they got into a habit very quickly. And this thing about habit forming, you come in, you get your Cornell exercise notebooks out, and you open them on the page of the video you've watched, and you have them by your computer. So every student does that. And then once the lesson starts, I can have a quick whiz round and have a look and go, Where are the questions? I couldn't be bothered at that point. That's now where the high expectations come in. Well, you're missing the point of one of this homework. That's not good enough. Okay, so I'm going to keep you back at break time because, oh, lucky you, this lesson's just before break. And you're going to run through those notes and you're going to turn them to a series of questions and you're going to pull out the key the key terms, because that's what I want you to do. The next time they don't want to give up their break time, their notes come in and I've got key questions. And if we look at the Cornell method with turning it into questions, setting it as preparation for the lesson, and look at the research then, now this form of homework is much higher up in terms of an effective tool. So for me, the high expectations comes in taking time out to teach them what that homework will look like, exemplifying what you want them to do, telling the stage of the process, and then making sure they do it and being consistent. It's what you referred to at the beginning. So if you want anything to add on there, which maybe I missed, or any thoughts of your own.
I just want to double down on the fact that high expectations doesn't mean hard,
No.
right? We don't want to make it hard for the students to make notes, okay? Because it's got to be achievable, which is why we give them the bullet points in the video and say, copy these down into your notebook. It's not supposed to be hard, it's supposed
Yeah.
to be easy, but the high expectation is that they do it. They do it all the time
Yeah.
because they see the value in it. And then, as Craig says, having an opportunity to turn those notes into a series of questions is where you start to get the higher order thinking skills. But it's not hard, it's
Yeah.
just high expectation. And I think that's the mistake that teachers make at the moment. They're thinking, right, I've got to put high expectations in here. It's what my senior leaders are looking for. That means I've got to make sure that everything a student does is challenging them beyond their ability. That's a massive mistake. We're not saying that students shouldn't be challenged, but don't confuse challenge with high expectations. They are two completely different concepts that sometimes overlap, but often don't.
Yeah, and it's worth saying that takes note icons. So at GCSE, we're saying, you can watch the video and then we've got a summary slide you essentially just copy. We remove that level of scaffolding at A level because by then they've spent 2 years taking notes, being told what is the summary material to write. They've turned them into questions. Well, then at A level, we remove the keynote slide. Well, now you just got to watch the sort of 5-6 minute video and you've got to summarize the notes yourselves and turn them into questions. So we do remove that scaffolding, but we are now 16 years of age and plus. And of course, now we're preparing them for that next step where they end up possibly in sort of university or college, where someone is not going to be spoon feeding them. So we would still have progress, and the expectations do increase as they move up through those kind of academic key stages. So I
So
alluded. Sorry, Dave, go on.
I was going to say, sorry, Craig. I was going to say, so teachers will often tell us that their students, flipped classroom is not right for their students. It doesn't work
Yeah.
for them. It doesn't work
Yeah.
for their learners. It doesn't work in their classroom. And I want to really challenge this myth because, for a start, most students have a smartphone these days. Whether we like it or not, they have a smartphone. They may not be able to use it in school. They certainly use it outside of school. So the notion that they can't access the videos or access the learning materials is not true.
Yeah.
You've given them an exercise book in which they are going to write their notes. They have the technology, they have the facility to do it, assuming that they've got a bedroom at home or somewhere else where they can actually do this, bearing in mind it's not supposed to take more than about 20 minutes anyway. They have what they need. Yet teachers still say to us from time to time, oh, it's not right for my students, oh, it doesn't really work. And I would say, Craig, that's because of a lack of high expectations. Perhaps you want to sort of break that down for us a bit.
Do you mean lack of high expectations from the teacher's point of view is what you're saying now?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're not then putting those high
Yeah.
expectations onto the students, you know.
That's right. Yeah, and we do hear that. It's a huge change in the way to work. So we advocate flipped classroom. It might not be for everyone, and it's not like we taught flipped classroom ourselves. The vast majority of my career, we came to it towards the end because we were looking to overcome a problem that we saw in our classrooms. We've been complete converts, but we hear, oh, it's lazy teachers. Teachers should be teaching from the front of the class. Well, I couldn't argue you more now. The high expectation comes then in if they're not coming prepared, they haven't watched the video, that is a lack of high expectations. You use your school sanction system appropriately. You'll have one in place. It's like anything else a student doesn't do that you ask them to. And what I found was when you set those high expectations early and you be consistent with them and you're persistent with them, what ends up happening very quickly is the vast majority of the class do come prepared. By prepared, I mean they've watched the video, they've taken some notes, they've turned them into questions. And that cognitive process works, and those students come knowing what the lesson's about. The effect that has on the few that persistently don't do it is they suddenly feel woefully out of place in the class. Because instead of the traditional, I've walked in, what are we going to learn today, miss? Or what are we doing today? The typical question. 95% of the class are coming in knowing what they're going to learn today. They know what the topic's about, and they've already come with some questions they have because there's a couple of things they didn't understand. The students that haven't then feel woefully inadequate in that lesson and unprepared. It's an uncomfortable feeling, and they start to go along like, oh, it could be worse, isn't it? I could be asked to do this research or do this poster or write this essay. They're only asking me to watch a 5-minute video and take some notes. So it comes down in that high expectations. Don't expect this method or any method you come up with to work instantly. So it is about you being consistent, setting the high expectations, persisting with it. It does work and it pays off. And I've had A-level students, well, in fact, honestly, all my A-level classes since I did this, once they've got their head into it, they're a few weeks in, a term in, they turn around and say, I wish all my lessons were taught in this flipped classroom way. That's for my students, not for me. So there's my two penneth on that, Dave.
Yeah, the high expectations. Well, the consistency is the high expectation. This is what we're
Yeah,
trying to say. It's not about what the students do in the task, it's about whether the students do the task. That's really what I'm saying. And so if
yeah,
you're a teacher that thinks, oh, my students didn't do it, and you lower your expectation thinking that they won't do it, then they will have the low expectation that you don't expect them to do it. You expect them not to do the work,
yeah,
and therefore they don't do the work. They've therefore met your lower expectation. And so you then set the expectation even lower. Have a high expectations that students will do what you ask them to do,
yeah,
and then deal with it when they don't. But don't expect a magic bullet, as Craig said. Don't expect this to work instantly. It may well take several weeks, even half a term, to really embed this practice because it's a bit new to them. You know,
mm,
they're used to getting away with things with certain teachers, right? They're used to the fact
yeah,
that, well, homework doesn't really matter because it doesn't impact on my lessons. So what difference does it make? They only set it because they have to, and I'm not interested in it. Well, you've got to give them a reason to be doing that homework, having the expectation that it's worthwhile and that they will do it. And the more you expect them to do it, the more they will rise to meet your expectation. And so, high expectations, it's really about the routines and what you want the
yeah.
students
It,
to do
totally.
rather than what they are doing per se. So that's our homework in terms of note taking, preparing ahead for lessons, and that kind of thing, Craig. But then we've got a second part of our homework, which is that we expect students to be using Smart Revise and to be engaging with their goals so that they can take what they've learned and commit it to long-term memory.
Yeah, so goals is a really easy feature for students and teachers to use because the teacher doesn't have to set them, and the goals are totally personalized for the student and it tells them exactly what they need to do in any given week to be successful. So the high expectation here is simply to work towards and to achieve your goals by the end of the week. And the way we've done it with Smart Revise is new goals are generated midnight on Saturday and they run for a week. So regardless of your course structure, whether it's GCSE or an A level and you've got doubles or when they're taught, you can set a consistent high expectation that over the course of a given week, you are managing your homework load of your other subjects, but your aim is to work towards and to complete your goals for that week. And then you just, again, just as Dave said throughout this, it's about being persistent and consistent with that, and tracking that they're doing it. And if they're not, saying, right, well, why are you not doing that? Goals has been designed to set you exactly the targets that you need based on what you're good at and what you're not good at in Smart Revise. So they are personalized to you. So this is the best way of using it, to do it little and often and work towards it. You can manage it around your other subjects. Next week, I want to see those goals achieved by the end of the week. So again, it all just comes down to consistency for me. Right. Well, I think I must have said high expectations about 800 times during that video, Dave. But I mean,
we need a high expectations counter on this
yeah,
video,
ding,
don't we?
ding,
Every
ding.
time we say it, it goes ding, ding.
Yes. Right. Well, look. Okay. That was very much focusing, as you say, on homework. But there's our opinion on sort of high expectations and how you can use them and set them specifically, I'd say, in terms of our teaching resources and our course companion. We're probably going to come back and do some more videos on high expectations, because there's so much. What does high expectations look like in the classroom? You know, in terms of group activities, expectations, behaviour. So we'll probably return and do some more in this series. But if you've enjoyed this, please head over to craiganddave.org, where you can find out everything about our products, including our teaching resources, Smart Revise, our learning videos for students, and Time to Code. And if you've got any questions, feel free to drop us an email at admin.craiganddave.co.uk. Thank you for watching.